For years, NASCAR fans and drivers have wanted one thing: more horsepower. And now, after countless debates, years of frustration, and a new wave of driver voices, NASCAR just might finally deliver. As racing gets tighter and passing, especially on short tracks, becomes harder and harder, the call for more power has become deafening. And this time, NASCAR is listening. Behind closed doors, officials are actively exploring a horsepower bump from 670 to 750. But what started as a quiet technical proposal has now exploded into a garage-wide debate, one that's drawing in drivers, legends, engine builders, fans, and manufacturers alike. And it's reigniting one of the sport's oldest questions: how much should driver skill versus engineering dictate who wins on Sunday? Let's rewind a bit. A decade ago, NASCAR Cup Series cars routinely topped 900 horsepower. These were beastly machines, raw, unforgiving, and exciting to watch. Drivers had to manage throttle and tires lap after lap. Mistakes were punished. Good drivers stood out. But then came a shift in philosophy. In an effort to lower costs, improve safety, and close the competitive gap between teams, NASCAR steadily reduced horsepower, first to the mid-700s, then down to 650. By 2019, the series rolled out the extremely controversial 550 horsepower package on intermediate tracks. And the reaction? Overwhelmingly negative. Fans weren't happy. Drivers weren't happy. Races started feeling more like high-speed slot car contests, momentum-based, with less throttle control and less room for a driver to make a difference. As Joey Logano once said at the time, "I want to drive a race car, not a video game." In 2022, with the debut of the next-gen car, NASCAR made some progress, raising the baseline horsepower back to 670 for most tracks. But many in the garage still believe that isn't enough. Why? Because modern NASCAR cars are incredibly well balanced and engineered. The field is tighter than ever. Drivers are shifting on short tracks now, and cars can be so locked in that passing becomes almost impossible without contact. And when drivers feel boxed in, the races can become processional. This is where the current horsepower debate comes in. NASCAR's senior VP of competition, Elton Sawyer, recently confirmed that increasing horsepower to 750 is on the table. On SiriusXM NASCAR radio, Sawyer said, "We're working closely with all stakeholders. The collaboration across the sport is better than ever." That is a very big deal. For years, power increases were considered too expensive, too hard on engines, or too difficult to manage across 3 different manufacturers: Chevy, Ford, and Toyota. Now, the door is open. And some drivers aren't waiting quietly. Bubba Wallace has been one of the loudest voices in favor of the change. Speaking before the Nashville race, Wallace said, "I think more horsepower would help everywhere. These cars are so close now, and shifting at some tracks kills passing opportunities. We're stuck inside the box we've been given." And he added, "More horsepower brings back that old school feel. It puts the racing back in the driver's hands, and that's what we all want." When asked how much power he'd like to see, 1,000, Wallace joked, before clarifying, 750 at least. "We need a big step. We've wanted more horsepower for years. What are we waiting for?"
How much do you think you guys need?
1,000.
1,000 horsepower.
I don't know. More than what we have. 750 at least, or higher.
That's the key point. Drivers don't want small tweaks. They want a meaningful change. Adding just 10 or 20 horsepower won't move the needle. Going from 670 to 750, now that would be noticeable. Josh Berry, who won at Vegas this year, echoed the sentiment, "We definitely need more, but it's got to be significant. You don't want to add 100 horsepower and have no difference on track." And 2020 champion Chase Elliott also weighed in, though with some caution. "That's always tricky," Elliott said, "but if they can align, it's worth a shot. It might help, it might not, but you won't know until you try." Why is manufacturer alignment such a challenge? Because each OEM builds engines to different philosophies. Chevy may prefer one power curve, Toyota another, Ford another still. Getting all three to agree on a target horsepower figure, durability standards, and cost structure is complex. But NASCAR is pushing the conversation forward. Mike Ford, NASCAR's managing director of communications, added on Hauler Talk, "We proactively brought it up to improve the short track package. The drivers want more horsepower, loud and clear." And that's important. This is not about super speedways. This is about short tracks. Places like Martinsville, Richmond, Bristol, where fans want to see classic bump and run, out-braking passes, and throttle modulation, not locked-in single-groove parades. Ryan Preece is another driver excited about the idea. More horsepower gives us another tool, whether it's throttle, brake, or setup. It makes passing easier and more exciting. And Preece isn't asking for a small bump either. "I'm not asking for 30 or 70 more horsepower. I want a real jump, like we had in the old days." But there is a counter-argument. Michael McDowell has been one of the more skeptical voices in the paddock. "I think it's an illusion some drivers and media are pushing. 50 more HP isn't going to change racing overnight." McDowell believes that the current level of competition is already so tight with the next-gen car designed to level the playing field that adding power won't magically solve short-track passing. He argues that aero and tire improvements may have a bigger impact. His comments led to a fun Twitter exchange with Dale Earnhardt Jr., who fired back, "Why not go for it? Short tracks badly need improvement. More HP means more tire wear, higher entry speeds, longer braking zones. That's exciting." McDowell replied, "Look, adding 50 horsepower isn't a magic bullet. Unless we go big, like 200 horsepower bigger, we're fooling ourselves." And McDowell makes a fair point. NASCAR has already tried many fixes. They've tested new tire compounds, they've experimented with splitter removal, they've looked at rear diffuser tweaks and aero changes. But here's the catch. Most of these tests happen with just a few cars on track. When you put 40 cars in the field, airflow, dirty air, and the stacking effect of the draft can neutralize many of those changes. That's why many drivers now see horsepower as one of the few levers left to pull. Ross Chastain summed it up perfectly. "I'll drive whatever they give me." But you can bet Chastain, and many others, would love to have more power under their right foot. Here's why more horsepower could really help short-track racing. It increases tire wear. More HP means more wheel spin and more tire degradation over a run, creating comers and goers. It forces drivers to manage throttle and tires, rewarding skill. It lengthens braking zones, allowing more passing opportunities into corners. It reduces the negative impact of aero push because cars can accelerate harder out of corners. And that's what fans want to see. Side-by-side racing. More mistakes, more driver input, less engineering advantage. Now, NASCAR faces a choice. Do they refine the current package and hope for small gains? Or do they make a bold move and restore some of the raw, driver-controlled racing that defined the sport's greatest years? Dale Jr. put it simply, "Why not try more horsepower? If 750 doesn't do it, go to 800. Because one thing is crystal clear. Fans are hungry for better short-track racing. Drivers are ready to take on the challenge. The sport is at a crossroads. Will NASCAR take the leap? We'll find out soon enough.